Hey folks, shout out. It's the Old Rucker, aka Bob, with a shout out from the pit. And I'm on the road in Texas, and I've got a fine young lady with me today, and I'm just going to tell you straight up, man, I'm going to name this show Screw Shame, and unless my guest decides that it's going to be named otherwise, because she reserves that right. She is so awesome. I've had a fantastic time getting to know her a little bit more in depth than I already knew. So I'm going to, we're sharing a mic, unusual, unlike what we do in the studio. So you're going to hear me in the background, but really, as my wife has said, the show is not about me, it's about the guests. So when I pass her the mic, you'll hear me in the background really just asking questions, but the real gist is our guest sharing her story, her experience, strength, and hope, and her toolbox. And I just love the what would you call it, unscheduled interview we had, just getting to know each other, and I learned some stuff, and asked her if she would do a show with us. This is really unique for me. So let me just say up front that stereotypically, guys tend to think that pornography is a guy issue. I've just discovered that it's not. Okay, so call me naive, gullible, whatever. We think the way we think, but we reserve the right to mature, as my wife would say, or maybe broaden my horizons is a better term. I like that better. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to my guest, Kristi, and we're going to get to know her a little bit, and then we're going to move into the subject. And as you guys know, our format is just like that. We do our experience, strength, and hope, and then we go into toolbox mode, and we talk resources and what have you. So obviously that comes to the last. But in the beginning, let's just get to know our guest. So I'm going to pass her the mic, and again, you'll hear me vaguely in the background asking questions. But you've heard plenty of the shows before. You know what my format is and basically where the questioning goes. So here we go. Kristi, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Kristi, and I'm from Texas. I'm a youth pastor at an Anglican church in my home city. I've been a youth pastor for almost 8 years, but I've been in youth ministry for about 12 since I was 18, so 12 this summer. I'm married. I've been married for almost 8 years in May. I have 4 animals. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and I love them. And my favorite color is sage green. And there you go. That's me in a nutshell. I love coffee. And matcha is pretty good too.
I know you explained this to me earlier, but tell me, and by the way, listening audience, we have a small audience here that if they choose to chime in at some time or whatever, this is free flowing. You know how we work here, very transparent. So we'll identify that at the time. But moving along, tell me again what matcha? What is that?
Matcha is like the coffee for tea drinkers. So it's really intense green tea, but instead of it being in a bag, it's like powderized. So it's like kind of earthy, grassy, but it's got the most caffeine out of tea. So it's like people who exclusively drink tea would typically go for matcha if they're going for like a coffee situation without the coffee.
Okay, so if you had, the scales of justice here, and you had tea on one side, matcha, yeah, right. So you had matcha on one side, and if you had, dark silk roast espresso on the other, which one would pack more caffeine?
I think coffee. I mean, but I'm also like, matcha is what I drink to gaslight myself into thinking I'm getting caffeine when I know I've had too much coffee. So if I'm like about to go to youth group and it's 6 p.m. and I'm like, I need a little kick, I pretend like matcha is going to give me that kick. But in reality, I personally just really like the taste of it. I think coffee drinkers or tea drinkers might disagree with me, but it allegedly has caffeine in it. I don't know the ratio though.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and go to youth. I have had, I'm going to say a blessing. I've had the opportunity to watch you interact with youth. I love youth. I worked with youth for a while. But man, I see the way that I worked with youth and how you work with them. What is the attraction to you and the youth? Because they, not trying to blow smoke or give you a big head or anything, but they love you. What's up with that? Just tell me what comes to your mind being asked that question.
I love that question. It's one of my favorite questions. I love youth ministry. It is, unless the Lord physically appears and kicks me out of youth ministry, it is my intention to pretty much be a youth minister as long as I possibly can. I love working with teenagers so much. I think when I was a teenager, I was introduced to safe adults. I mean, my parents are lovely and they are safe adults and I trust my parents, but okay, Cleo, that's one of those dogs that I was talking about. When I was a teenager, I was introduced to safe adults who weren't my parents, who were closer to my age, and I was able to have someone who was outside of my family who was really invested not only in my spiritual health and my relationship with God, but in my life in general. So I had a performance or I had something that I was doing and my youth leaders would come and they would be there because they wanted to interact with me and wanted to be there for me. So I feel like the youth leaders I had when I was a teenager really modeled well relational ministry. And so when I graduated high school, I needed a job, and the youth group that I attended had a paid youth ministry internship that was 4 years long. So it was designed to be during your undergrad program in college. So you're going to college, you're taking accredited youth ministry classes with a guy who was leading our program, and you're also learning what it means to not only be a leader in youth ministry, but to run your own youth group. So, for me, I have noticed not only is it the biggest honor and blessing of my life to be a trusted, safe adult for teenagers, but I learned so much about love and hope and joy and the Lord from the eyes of a teenager. Because you get older and you get jaded, you just lose touch with childhood wonder and beauty, and being able to, every single week, multiple times a week, I'm interacting with teenagers and hearing their perspective and understanding what they think about God. It's giving me a fresh perspective of God. So we're doing a Bible study together, and I'm going over a story I've heard multiple times, and I've read through it multiple times because I've prepared the Bible study. And then this teenager pops off and says something that I have never even thought of before. They offer such fresh perspective, and it's beautiful. So I just love being able to interact with teenagers, middle and high school kids. You just get a unique perspective on life, and it keeps you grounded and gives, I think, we talk about the fruits of the Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Nailed it. And I feel like teenagers give such a beautiful example of what the joy of the Lord looks like, because especially middle school kids. I love my middle school kids. They just have this beautiful childhood youth about them, and you get to see the way that they interact with the Lord in a way that adults can discount, because we have bigger things to worry about. We have, housing, taxes in general, and my jobs and grocery shopping. And we can get so bogged down by these day-to-day adult responsibilities. And teenagers give you the ability to not take yourself seriously and see the way that the Lord takes them seriously, regardless.
Okay, another observation. So, I dabbled in youth groups growing up. I mean, I had been a member of youth groups. And one of the things that I always thought were, whether it's fair or not is irrelevant, but I always saw what I thought was hypocrisy in our youth leaders, because they would act one way around us, but we kind of knew what they were really like. And so there's this thing called respect and trust that you talk about. Well, I always felt like we were with actual adults, like we're with our parents. So, we had to act a certain way. Here's the observation I have with you. You are you, whether you are with your youth or not with your youth. And case in point, I saw you with a young lady recently, And I just assumed you were going to kick into youth leader mode because that's what I'd seen, kind of growing up. But that's not what I saw. You were the same with her that you are, when you're with other adults. So I don't know if that comes naturally or if that was an actual decision. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, can you talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, I think that I had the same, like when I was, so I started attending the youth group that I lead now when I was a junior in high school. When I started attending that youth group, I saw youth leaders who acted the same and just were themselves. So it was really modeled for me being who you are, because I feel like I had that type of experience when I was younger. When I was in middle school or early high school, I had that exact same kind of experience. So when I approach youth ministry, I edit myself, right? It's like, I'm not going to make certain jokes that I would make at home or with my friends. I'm not going to make those jokes with a middle school kid. I'm not going to talk about watching Deadpool with my middle school kids. You know what I mean? So there's elements that aren't appropriate for us to talk about because of their age. But when it comes to who I am, I don't see the benefit in them not knowing me, because I want to know them. And I think that it's very rude of me to not offer them the same experience.
All right. That was a great answer. And I'm going to ask you this one. So I'm very familiar with therapy. I've got a lot of therapists in our inner circle. We've had some on the show, and they're involved in the audience knows what I mean when I say tribe. So there's like this HIPAA thing, So and the audience probably knows what that means. You got to not go. You can't give full disclosure on people. But can you give me an example of where, as you as a youth leader, have maybe help direct a young man, or I don't know if they're even considered men yet. Well, you decide what you're going to call them, men or females or males, how they've dealt with some crazy trauma and how you've been able to help them, get on the right track or at least have self-awareness of what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah.
Back to you.
Okay, so when I baseline, right? When an adult comes to youth group and we go through the background checks, because that's what I have before any adult comes into my building with a group of teenagers. We've done a background check, we've done an interview, and I identify them legally at least as a safe adult, right? Because adults can slip through the cracks, and thank the Lord, in the past 10 years, all of the adults that have been in our group have been safe adults. But one of the things that I tell the adults when they come in to do youth ministry and they start getting frustrated because they're like, man, I see the way that you interact with these kids and I'm not getting that from them. And I want to be someone that they can come to for prayer. When it's prayer time, they come to you and I want them to come to me too. I explain to them, it starts really little, right? So it's I have had this one girl in my group, and I have known her since she was in 6th grade, and now she's a senior in high school. Middle school, when I hung out with this kid, it was talking about dumb things. It wasn't serious. It wasn't emotional. I could tell that there was stuff going on at home, but she wasn't ready to start talking about it. So when I tell these adults, you have to show them that you are trustworthy with the little and stupid things before they even come close to trusting you with big things. So you have to show them that you're trustworthy because their nail broke and they went to a school dance and they're really sad because they loved the nails that they had and they're devastated because for them, the fit is ruined. The outfit is destroyed because their nail broke off, right? It's stupid. You're grand scheme of things. You're sister, it is a nail. You're going to be fine. Glue it back on or no one's going to be looking at your nails. They take that as rejection, right? So it's looking at these little moments and being like, oh man, Joanne, that's not a kid in my youth group, but we're going to call her Joanne. Joanne, I'm so sorry. Your nail broke and that's really disappointed. And you took a long time to do them. That must have been really disappointing. And then in those moments of building up being trustworthy with small things, you begin to be trusted with bigger and bigger things. So with this one kid, and we're going to call her Joanne, when she was in middle school, I could tell she had a lot going on at home, and she was a kid that was really bubbly and joyful, but there was a lot of sadness in her eyes, right? It's you've got some stuff going on. And I would just start telling her, like when she was in 6th grade, repeatedly throughout middle school, I love you so much, Joanne. Do you know you don't need to make me laugh to make me like you? I just like you because I like you. I don't like you just because you make me laugh or because you're fun. You could just sit next to me and I'd really love that. And we just started there. And as we kept going, it's like, okay, so we have some really major at-home issues. And you're struggling because your parents aren't paying attention to you the way that they should be. And you're having these really big stuff happening, and now you're living with your grandparents, and you're not living at home anymore. But because we started out small when you were younger, and you learned that I not only care about the little and goofy things, I've identified, like I can tell, you're struggling with people wanting just to be around you for the sake of being around you. Like I looked at this kid and I feel like the Lord gave me insight. It's like people expect you as a 6th grader to take care of them when they're older, when they're your parent, when they're your older sister. It's like they expect you to take care of them because you've taken care of them so well and you have a good capacity to care for people. But you need to understand that here in this room, when we're together, I'm the adult and you're the kid. I'm the adult. I take care of you. You don't take care of me. We get to just be with each other and spend time with each other. And you can take care of me if you want to. You want to give me some water? Give me some water. But when it comes to the emotional stuff, I am here to care for you. So that's kind of the tactic that I take with all of my students is it starts with little stuff. You build the relationship. And as the relationship is built and you are consistent enough in their life, they begin to realize that they can trust you and that they can actually open up and that you're a safe person, not only spiritually to come to for advice or counsel, but you are a person that actually cares enough to sit and listen through 45 minutes of nothing to get to the last 5 minutes of something.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that's why I'm not a youth group leader. I'm your nail broke. You know, get over it. That's so refreshing to hear. And I'm going to say, because I'm not beating myself up, but I think we all have our place in life. Mine is working with, as the audience knows, and you have learned, I deal with grown men and grown men only. And with grown men, I'm going to talk to them like a grown man. I'm not going to talk to them like a child because even though some of them are emotionally stunted because they've been doing illicits maybe for like their whole life, well, you know, school's out, life's in session. You know, so I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. And the first thing you're going to do is shut the heck up and listen. You know, your kids would walk out on that. Okay, so if this isn't a good question, just say not a good question. Any of my questions, and if you've listened to any of the shows, you'll have heard guys. You know, no, I'm not going to go there, and that's fair. That's fair because you know, my own family will tell you that, you know, sometimes, you know, Old Rucker, you go places that people don't want to go. So, since these, and I've seen it, I saw the hugs just with the kids today. I was just, golly, I was pretty moved by that because these kids weren't giving you a hug just because, you know, I got to give them a hug. It was like they wanted to. These guys were in line, and it wasn't even a youth group gathering. It was like, you just randomly, like, I didn't even see that coming. I was like, okay, I'm a people watcher. You know, I also, you know, write books. I know you guys are dying to buy one of my books, but I'm not going to disclose that because this program's anonymous. You don't even know my last name. So, what would you do, or have you done, or do you go there? You have built a trust with a young person, and you find out that the trauma they have in their life is really, really bad, and you cannot get the parents involved for a reason that maybe the parents are perpetrators in this. What happens now? Because you obviously have a heart for these people, and, you know, guys like me, I want to put on a ghillie suit and snipe people. You can't do that, but how do you handle that? Back to you.
Okay, so much like with mandated reporting, thank you, honey. My husband is right next to me, and he is a therapist, which is which is really helpful. So much like with therapy, there in youth ministry is mandated reporting, and for us in Texas, in mandated reporting, it's is there intention to hurt self? Is there intention to hurt others? Are you being hurt? So if there's a situation like that a parent, like if there's abuse involved, then it's I go to my boss and then we together go to authorities and we make sure the situation is taken care of. Praise God, we've not had to do that yet. But if it is like a situation where there's no abuse, but there is some issues at home and a kid very much doesn't feel supported, I view that as a part of my job with me and my other leaders. Like, okay, so you have a place to live, you're getting fed, your parents provide for you, but maybe they're not emotionally there for you the way that they should be. We've got you. We'll be there for you. So, I mean, it's as simple with these kids without good support systems is just stepping in and being a support system. So going to plays, going to performances, sitting in a really hot room and that's crowded and you're like, someone is thigh touching me right now and I don't know their name and I'm sweating, but I'm watching this kid dance. Because they've spent the whole semester learning this dance and they're on a dance team. It's doing those things, showing up to games, being really cold, being really hot. It's like putting yourself aside for a second and just truly being there for a kid and like just choosing to be there for them, and understanding that it's temporary. Like my discomfort is temporary. But me being there, my presence there is lasting. So that's kind of the, I forgot the words I was going to say.
Hey, we can always come back to it. Okay, so here's another observation, and I thought it was funny because I am a people watcher, right? And if I got paid for that, I'd be rich. Okay, so we were in an environment last night, hanging out, and there's 1,000 people there, and you had one of your youth there, and my observation was you just allowed that person to be free spirited. Be goofy, be you. I just thought that was cool. But here's the other part of the observation. That person was never out of your sight. and the way you did it was so covert. It was like, free spirit, and there's this invisible tether line that I saw it, but here's the other part I saw. That individual knew the tether line was there, was allowed to be free and open, and I could see the connection between you two because I guess the word safe comes to mind. That is a gift. I was very impressed with that. All right, so everything we just talked about right now has nothing to do with the purpose of the show, but it was really interesting, and I thank you for sharing it. Before we move on to another subject, though, is there anything I'm missing that you want to talk about, you want to mention? Okay. Sitting audience here. Anything you guys want to add? No? Okay, cool. If at any time, we don't want the listening audience to know we're doing this, so just raise your hand. They don't need to know it. So just raise your hand so I can, break my concentration and we can do that. Okay, so I did a quick look up here, and it's pretty obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway so it doesn't come from me. So there's the definition of shame as a noun, a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. And the example they give here is she was hot with shame. And then there's the verb of a person, action, or situation. Make someone feel ashamed. I tried to shame him into giving some away. Okay, so we're not going to go with that. We're going to go with the noun, a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. All right, so I could have done a whole show with you just on this first, random topic when we got into a youth ministry and working with the youth, because that just jumped in here. Really, though, what we're moving into is pornography. So I would like, Kristi, for you to give us just a snapshot before we get into the actual pornography. We're going to transition to that. But give me a snapshot, as best as you can of what your growing up was like. Just so the audience can kind of get an idea of, well, who is Kristi? You know what I'm saying? Okay, here we go.
Okay. So I grew up in a military household. My dad served 20 years in the Army. He got out when I was 13. So from age fresh out the womb to 13 years old. My dad was in the Army. I have an older sister. I have a mom and a dad. My extended family is all from the East Coast. So we kind of grew up just everywhere. I was born in Germany. My dad, by nature of his job, kind of in and out, not because he wanted to be, obviously, but because he had to go to the field, because he'd get deployed, because he had work trips. So really the core family vibe was my mom, my sister, and I. And not super close with our extended family, but love them anyway. My mom and my sister were very close growing up. When I was a teenager, I got a little bit closer with my mom after my sister moved away for college. I was more close to my dad. I would say my sister had a lot of hard times growing up. She had a lot of it's her own story, her own things to share. But it made it really difficult for her. She had a really hard time, so she needed a lot of attention. Because she went through a lot. So she needed a lot of focus. And I got focused too, but I think as a kid, it felt less than what my sister got, even though it probably wasn't, but it kind of felt that way. So we bounced around a few times, ended up where we are in Texas, and kind of stayed here. So it's always just been the four of us. The four of us is the core family. I know my cousins. I love my cousins. I know my aunts and uncles. I love them. I loved my grandparents. But it was me, my mom, my dad, and my sister. That was who we were.
Okay. Well, shout out to your sister, by the way. I don't know anything you just said. I met her husband, and their child, and I'm thinking, wow, what a great nuclear family. You just kind of stereotype, what a nuclear family looks like. Well, they get along fantastic. They get along with the kid loves them. So kudos to her for overcoming whatever it is that you alluded to. And you're right, it is her story. Maybe someday I can do one with her. So, because, just in the brief time that I've chatted with her, I'm like, oh, she's pleasant. This is fun. Okay. So obviously you had, that's the good stuff, but then, somewhere in there you got introduced, and that's what you're going to tell us, how you got introduced to pornography, why. And the only thing I ask, and it's probably pretty obvious to you, is not to give specifics. If it was a link, great, but we don't give them credit. I'm preaching to the choir here, but I needed to make sure I said that. Okay, so cool. Back to you.
Just a fun little thing before I get started. When I started sharing my testimony, I remember the first time I shared it I was so used to sharing it in front of teenagers. The first time I shared this testimony in front of adults, my husband, Mark, was there, and we were like, what, just started dating? We were pretty fresh dating, and I was so nervous because I'm like, I can talk in front of teenagers day in, day out. You put me in front of adults, like a group of adults, and I start getting panicky because they're not the same openness as teenagers are. Sometimes I feel like there's some more judgment there, or it's just a little bit more scary. And I used the phrase porn hole. And it was like I fell into a porn hole, and then I looked at Mark and he looked at me, and I was like, I was like, don't Google that. Don't Google that. Don't do that. So
I'm Googling it.
No, don't do it.
Okay, I'm curious.
Okay, so, but this is a story about how I fell into my porn hole. And again, don't Google that. Just leave it alone.
I'm sure going to get a lot of messages on this one. I'm ready.
Okay, so I was in high school. I went to a really small high school. My graduating class was 86 people. And my family was a Christian family, so I grew up pretty sheltered. I was homeschooled for a good portion of my up till second grade, and then it was just really sheltered home life, right? So it's I didn't really know much about the world and about how the world works, about how relationships works, about sex. It was just, it was the typical, we talk about purity and we separate the boys and the girls get a modesty talk and the guys get the porn talk. So, I just really, honestly, my sex education was abysmal. And because of that, I had a lot of curiosity. And when I was in high school, there was this just basically a chat site that got really popular. And the kids in my high school thought it was hilarious. And they would get, it's like you could talk to these people and know you had no idea who they were or where they were. It's a really unsafe site. And they thought it was funny because people would like send, what's the explicit, do you guys swear on the show or no?
It's transparent.
Okay, great. So like they'd get like dick pics, right, from these like grown people. And these are like literally 15, 16-year-old kids. And they're like, ha 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 ha. They thought it was so funny. And I remember I was in biology when this happened. And it was like the first time I'd ever seen a penis in my life. And I was like, that's what that looks like. I don't understand what the hype's about, guys. Like that's what? But that led me then into diving more into this site, asking questions, which led me into looking up certain sites and figuring out what porn was, right? So I kind of got stuck in this cycle of curiosity. You know, curiosity killed the cat. Is that the phrase? And I knew it was wrong. Like I knew this wasn't something, one, as a Christian that I should be doing. Right? And two, as a girl, I was like, this is a boy sin. This is something that boys do. This isn't something that girls do.
That's right.
And that is where shame entered the stage. Right? So it was like, I would wait until my family went to bed. I would lock my door, or I would like go into my closet and like keep the light off so it looked like I was in my bed. And I would be like literally under the cover of darkness, and just like researching or looking and just curiosity. What is this? What does that mean? What's an orgasm? Like it was just like all of these things that I just wasn't aware of, what they meant or like how people had sex. And it started purely as curiosity, and then it quickly became a coping mechanism for me. Because it felt good. It sated curiosity. It was something that gave me dopamine for just a second. And it was like the slightest little dopamine hit. And then as soon as it was finished, like as soon as the dopamine hit was finished, it was so much shame. Like in the moment, like I would be like, I messed up again. Oh my gosh, I did that again. And I would feel so much disgust for myself. So I would literally isolate myself. I would be in the cover of darkness. And I would engage in this, what came to be an addiction, right? What came to be something I like literally couldn't stop myself doing, for years as a teenager. And slowly it became a really powerful lie from the enemy. It's like, I think it went into stages. The first stage was like, well, now you've done this. No one's going to want you. You're damaged goods. Yeah, you're damaged goods. You may not have had sex, but you've seen things you shouldn't have seen.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, no one's going to want you. What guy is going to want to date or marry a girl that is like seen these things? Right? It's like, so no one's going to want you. And then the next step that kind of solidified that lie was like, this is the only way you'll ever be able to experience love. Because like, you get told in church with the like very, very slim sex talks that you would get at youth group that like sex is something that happens between married people who love each other. So it's like, so this thing is done between people who love each other. And this is the closest I'm ever going to get to it, is watching these videos.
Okay, I've just had my eyes waken, and I already knew that it was stereotype, that was a guy thing. And it's not like I always prided myself because I never understood pornography. I didn't like it, but I have other areas of challenges, and I think that's important. I'm interjecting this to make a point. The worst thing I find is we have we beat ourselves up. We are our own worst enemies. And it doesn't help when somebody else adds insult to injury by, pointing fingers at us. And we know that happens because we participated directly or indirectly by pointing fingers at people. So we know what happens, which makes it even more difficult for us to get help. We're not going to do it because we're going to be judged. We know this because we judge other people. So this, what'd you say earlier? Devil, enemy, or something? How did you use that phrase? Lies from the enemy or something? You said something to that effect. Usually on the show, I ask people what their higher power is. You've already identified yours, so you're a Christian. Okay, so when I ask people if there's a higher power, and I make this point very clear with everybody, if there's a higher power, then there is a lower power, just by virtue of saying higher. So in this case, that lower power does a fantastic job of increasing our own shame because we just keep getting deeper and deeper and we're not able to get out. I'm just so curious. You say your husband knew about this? Okay, I'm putting the cart before the horse. Had you already broke the chains on this before you met your husband? So no kidding. Just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you're in this. Okay, so I'm going to pass the mic to you, and the first thing you have to do is introduce yourself. You don't have to give backstory, you just introduce yourself. But now I'm curious. This is going another direction. Like I said, this show, you never know which way we're going to go. It's not a canned, rehearsed thing, Okay, so, Mark, I'm obviously going to identify who you are, but tell me what it was like, because you guys were dating when you found out. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so identify yourself, please, and then tell us what went through your head when you found out. Talk away.
Yeah, name's Mark. That's really all you need to know right now. We met the fall of senior year of high school, and so at the time I was asking her kind of get to know you questions, but being raised Christian, get to know you meant let's ask hard questions fast. So just in our first kind of encounter, I was like, "What's your darkest sin?" And so,
just like that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's ballsy.
In a Starbucks.
Yeah, at a Starbucks. It might have even been at a McDonald's, if I remember right.
No, the first time it was after Les Mis.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So when she was talking to me about it, I'd been on a journey where I really just wanted people to be genuine. Didn't want to play the dating game. Didn't want to try to be somebody that I wasn't. So I found her response to be refreshing. So it didn't catch me off guard. It was more of respect. You just shared that. Nice.
I was also trying to pretend like I wasn't still stuck in this addiction. Because at this point, I'm 18 or I'm 17 and I've gone to an account. I've confessed to a youth leader and we're meeting with each other and now I'm actively trying not to watch porn, but it's still happening because I haven't quite kicked the habit yet, right? So that added a whole level of shame. It was that's when I started being a youth intern and I was actively sharing my testimony and actively still struggling with the addiction itself. So I didn't kick the habit until I was in my early 20s before we got married, but it was still not as active as it was when I was a teenager, when I was in high school. It got less intense when I was in college, but it was still something I was trying to handle with the Lord when I was in college.
Okay. Huge shout out to you, Mark, because I don't know how I would have handled that. That would have just freaked me out. I mean, a woman? In pornography? Okay, that is totally bizarre. So shout out to you for handling that so well. To be fair, I don't know I don't think we need to go there, but it would be fun to go, okay, so did you ask him what his deepest, darkest sin was? I did. Oh, do you want to go there? Are you okay with that or no? Are we going there? Yeah. Okay. You're okay with that?
Yeah, I don't remember what.
Tell me it's about your ex-girlfriend.
Oh.
It was when you were I wasn't sexually pure. That was at McDonald's.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so after these two full disclosures, did you guys grow closer together, or did you have an eye on each other? Was it helpful to your relationship?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. So full disclosure was good in your favor. Okay, I don't know. Mark, I might have ran away. I don't know. I'm just saying. Okay, so okay.
Well, see, I feel like that's kind of the question of what people are looking for in relationships, right? It's like, are you having some kind of image in your head of, I want someone who's going to meet all these metrics, right? And I think a lot of times, like in interviews or dating, right, you want to give the best first impression of what you think the other person's going to want. And so starting off from the bat being like, okay, this is who I am. I think many people, probably most of the listeners, would probably be like, that's what I'm looking for now. Just want someone to be honest with me. Like, if this is who I am, what am I doing to work on it? Where am I at? I think when we try to pretend, you just don't really get the results you really want.
Okay, so that is another good answer. You know, my wife says, after we got married, she said, you know, I had a list of all the things I was looking for in a man, and you're not on that list. you know, okay, so. Okay. Right. She's actually done a show with us, but we might air that sometime. She's a hoot. Okay, so couple of things on this on this topic of pornography from your perspective, Kristi. So, when did pornography itself become so objectionable to you that you did something about it? A, and B, how did you do it?
Oh, I love this. Okay, so it's a two-part answer rather. Number one, when I started my youth ministry internship, Stephen, who was my boss, also officiated our wedding. Yay. Oh, cool. Love him. I started this internship with two other people, and one of the first things he told us was, when you are a spiritual leader, and especially when you're a spiritual leader to children, to teenagers, your secret sin infects your group. Because like the spiritual, supernatural power that like exists in your like mantle of authority or whatever, if we want to get, you know, a little woo-woo in our language here. Your secret sin is going to show up in the lives of your teenagers. And that was a reality check for me. So I was like, well, I don't want my girls or my dudes, like, to be stuck in this the way that I'm stuck in it. So that was like, okay, I really got to kick this habit. The second was I learned about how pornography encourages and perpetuates human trafficking, right? So you look at a website, right, and there's no way to tell whether the people in this video or in this content are doing this consensually, right? So you have no idea if you're watching something that someone was coerced and made to do, or if it was something they got paid or chose to do. So pornography is one of the elements that perpetuates the concept and the reality of sexual trafficking of people. And human trafficking, I went to a 6-week long, in like 2016, I went to a 6-week long justice school where the whole focus was like, what is human trafficking? What do we do about it? How do we stop it in Thailand? And it's one of the areas of my life that I like to do my best to engage with, to like raise awareness on, to talk about with my students. It's like understanding that when we are watching pornography, we have no idea if what you're engaging in is consensual, if the people got treated fairly, if they got breaks, if they were you've no idea if that person was dragged to somewhere and like made to do something. So it's like those two things coupled together. One, this affects the lives of your students. Two, this affects the world and encourages a horrific human act. Made me disgusted with the concept of pornography, and then I think gave me the courage to actually push through my discomfort, right? It's like one of the things I had learned, and I think this is true, and I don't know if it's fact. So, honey, tell me if I'm saying this brain neurological pathways I'm about to talk about. We'll see. Fact check me, friends. Your brain makes neurological pathways with thinking, right? So it's like, okay, so I'm feeling this way. And if your knee-jerk reaction is, I'm feeling sad, I'm going to watch porn because porn makes me feel better, you build like a neurological pathway in your brain that when I feel sad, this is what I do. When I feel sad, I eat ice cream, right? So it's like this just knee-jerk reaction because you've built a habit around it. It takes multiple weeks to dissolve that neurological pathway in your brain and to build a new one, which means it takes multiple weeks, right, to stop this knee-jerk comforting action, regardless of how bad it is for you, to build a new way of living your life. So finding out this is going to show up in my students' lives and this encourages human trafficking, encouraged me and kept me going to dissolve this neurological pathway of a habit in my brain and to build a different coping mechanism.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to say this again and again. Thank you so much for coming on the show, because a lot of this stuff I just didn't know. I just don't think that way, but I know I've got members of the audience that do. And that's what the show's all about, is outreach, recovery. You are not alone. Love and tolerance is our code. And then toolbox, and we're going to come to that later. All right, so you answered my question. So you felt because of this fellow, Stephen, the secret sin, as you called it, I love that, you got convicted.
Yeah.
And then to get out of it, was there, lack of a better word, a confession involved? Or what happened that you just like, it obviously became objectionable to you because now you're genuinely afraid for your girls and your dudes. So what happened?
So the first instance of when I was a teenager, still in high school, I went to a summer camp, or I went to camp, and the whole topic of the conference was the Beatitudes, Matthew 5, Matthew 5, the Sermon on the Mount. And one of the Beatitudes are, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." And that was one of the teachings that they went through. So at this point, I hadn't told anybody about watching porn. And excuse me, I remember sitting there and being like, oh crap, like I'm not pure in heart. My heart isn't pure because I'm like knee deep in this sexual sin. How am I supposed to see God? And it was like devastating for a second, because I was like, oh, have I never heard God? Like, it was a little bit of a spiral moment. I went to the back of the room and I sobbed. And then my youth leader found me. And then I, for lack of a better term, confessed to her, right? So it was like, oh, what was her name? I don't remember her name. It was a really long time ago, and I ended up not staying there at that youth group. Julie? No. Whatever her name was. Carrie. It was Carrie. Carrie, just like loved me and accepted me. And it was shocking because I was like, okay, I'm going to say this sin and I'm going to be kicked out of this youth group.
And
like
lightning is going to strike you.
Lightning is going to strike me. This woman is going to be like, you nasty little child. You can't be in this youth group anymore.
Did you touch any of my kids?
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, I'm going to be taken home and then I am not going to be invited back here. Like I wanted so bad to ask for help. But I was like so positive that people were going to judge me, and like the shame, right? The shame just like kept me down. It kept me from reaching out and asking for the help. So I was just finally at my wit's end because I was hearing, I'm not pure in heart. I'm not going to see God. I'm 16 years old and I'm devastated by that. So let's just try it out. And then she responded beautifully, and she hugged me, and she loved me, and she counseled me through the beginning stages of like recognizing the pattern.
Okay, so that makes a great deal of sense to me, and on a parallel to illicits. Men and women get into illicits, and I'm always amazed by those people that just quit. They just stop. They get the message, they confess, they're convicted, it became objectionable, and they stop overnight. Those people blow me away. I'm not one of them. I was introduced to recovery, but my road to recovery started with my mental thoughts, but not my actual actions. But you had shared earlier that with your husband, you'd already confessed to Carrie that you had this issue, so now the power was beginning to be taken away. And then, of course, later on, you shared that you still secretly were engaged. When did you sever your relationship with pornography, and what did that look like?
So this a little bit goes into my toolbox, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Mark and I started dating, and when we started dating, I was like, okay, this has to end in my life. Like, I'm in a relationship, and I want to honor the guy that I'm like falling in love with, and I want to marry him. And when I marry him, I don't want this to be a part of our lives. I don't want this to influence our sexual life. Like, I don't want this to have any sort of influence in our relationship whatsoever. It's time for me to really so there was like several aspects that kind of helped me get there. So, I started attending the church that my youth group is a part of, when I became an intern, when I graduated high school. And then when I did that, I reached out to, a young adult. She was older than me. She's like a decade older than me. She's wonderful. She's this tall, beautiful, redheaded woman. I love her so much. And I would meet with her, and she became the person that I told every single thing to. She was my accountability partner. So I'd go over to her house. It was just me and her. She would, she'd make me a drink. Like, we'd have like coffee or tea or water.
Matcha.
Matcha. We'd sit on the couch, and she became the person that I reported back to. So,
did she have an issue with pornography?
No, I don't think so. No. She didn't, but she was someone who I trusted. So it's like, even though you didn't have the same issue, you are someone that I trust. So I would classify them as setbacks. Like, that's how we would classify them as. Like, how many victories did we have this week? How many setbacks did we have this week? And when we first started out doing this, like, kind of way of accountability, I realized that the more that I lied about having setbacks, the more setbacks I would begin to have. Because I would have like a whole week, like 6 whole days of victories, back to back to back to back. No porn. 1 day of porn, right? Like, one time watching it. And I'm like, it's just one time. I'm not going to, like, it was just like the whole week was so good. It's just the one time. I don't need to say, it's just once. It wasn't like it was twice. It's just once. And so I would not share the like single setback. And then I realized that like the following weeks, the setbacks would get even more. Right? It's like, and which just encouraged Stephen's mentality and idea of secret sin. It's like, the more you put this in darkness, the more that you put this in secret, the more power it has over you and over your life. So I realized that Megan was someone I could trust. And I would say things to her that, I would say it to my like inner circle people. But at the time, like when I was a kid, I didn't open up. Like, opening up wasn't something that I did. I wasn't emotionally honest with people. I wasn't vulnerable with people. I was the person that people came to like receive that. So like, you would come to me and I would listen to you and I would love you and you would be vulnerable with me and I would give you advice. I was never the one that went to other people because I thought I was a burden. And now my nephew is about to walk through. That's him. That's my nephew.
Okay, so, wow, again, awesome. So, I had a couple of thoughts here. So, I'm amazed at the parallelism between illicits, drug and alcohol, and this particular topic. Are they familiar with? Okay. So, and you said some other things, like, we use this kind of analogy in other subjects, like a step out of the light into the darkness, and then it's a slippery slope and you find yourself back into it. But the parallelism, sneaking an illicit drug or drink, right? And lying about it, not telling anybody, slipping back into the darkness, and then pretty soon, back into it altogether. So you, that was it. Severed it. You're done. You. One of the tools, fantastic tool, is accountability. Man, we preach that in all aspects of recovery. So kudos there. That's awesome. Great tool. I'm sure the listening audience will grab that one, right? Accountability. So there was a movie. And I digress a little bit because I just want to get your thoughts on it. Sound of Freedom?
I'm meaning to watch it. It's on my list of things.
Okay. then we can't go there because that movie tore me up. And I didn't realize the parallelism when you had mentioned earlier this particular topic. I wasn't tracking that you could be, because I'm not familiar with the industry, I just know it exists. I wasn't tracking that you could be watching porno and there be people in it that are forced into it. And that makes me even angrier. I mean, because I've got this attitude, well, I think I'm not a fan of porno. In fact, we did another show on this subject that'll come out here soon. But I just have a lot of reasons not to agree with it. I don't need to get into that here because it's on that show. But never thought that somebody would be forced to do something like that. And that, because really, if somebody's going to do it, that's their choice. That's how I am, right? I don't agree with it, but that's their choice. But now, after you telling me that, I've got very stronger feelings than I've had before. Okay, so we'll skip past that. Have you had any students, because of your openness, come to you with, okay, so you're nodding, so I'm going to hand the mic back to you, and can you tell me how that looked like and maybe how that person's dealing with it today?
Yes. So let's see. I have had multiple teenagers, both local in my group and when I have shared this story at like conferences or retreats or whatever, when I've guest spoken, when I've been a guest speaker. There it is. When I've been a guest speaker somewhere, I've had tons of kids come up to me, both boys and girls, and ask for prayer and like, how do I get through this? I can much more easily help a student that's local because I can see them and be an accountability person for them. But yeah, I never grew up hearing women talk about this topic. I never grew up hearing women talk about how they used to watch porn and now they don't. And so I hated that because it kept me even more isolated, because it perpetuated the thought that this is only for dudes. This isn't for girls at all. So I had made a pretty conscious decision that even though this is a little scary to share, I am going to share it anyway, because there are either girls who are struggling with porn right now, or there are girls who will struggle with porn, and they need to know that there is an adult who can help them and wants to help them. So when one of my teenage girls, one of my guys comes up to me and he's like, Kristi, I've been watching porn. I don't know what to do. What we do is I thank them for their honesty. I let them know that they're not dirty, that I'm not disappointed in them, and that I'm grateful they trusted to come and talk to me. We pray with each other. And then I ask them what trusted spiritual adult male are they going to go talk to? Because we have a conversation about, hey, this is a sexual sin, and it's not appropriate for you and I to walk through this in the way that we need to walk through this. This is not appropriate for you and I to do together, because you are a young man and I am a woman, and that's just by proxy. It's not going to work. But I care about you and I want to check in. So do I have your permission to ask you the next time I see you what man you chose and how the conversation went? So at camp, I had a boy. He came up to me this past summer and he was like, I've been watching porn. I don't know what to do. And I was like, you want to know who I think would be such a good pick to talk to? Is your dad. So I was like, can I ask you at youth group after you get back from camp how the conversation went? And he was like, yeah, you can. So I did. I was like, did you talk to your dad? And he said yes. And then I actually saw his dad, and he told me his dad brought up my son. He got back from camp and he asked if we could go on a walk, and he never wants to do that with me. And then we talked about what you asked him to talk to me about, and I just want to say thank you. So with my young guys, I encourage them to go talk to either one of our other male leaders or to a trusted spiritual adult who is a man in their lives. With my girls, we do the same thing. We pray, we encourage, we, go against the lies. You're not dirty. You are loved. This doesn't need to define you. And then there's like a reality check. This is going to be hard. You have to really want this to get over this. So if we're going to meet together, you're going to take it seriously. If you're not going to take it seriously, you're wasting both of our times. Like, you're wasting your time, you're wasting my time. So we're going to take this seriously, And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So we'll go out and we'll sit somewhere. We'll go to Starbucks. And I created, it's something I did for myself when I was kind of walking through recovery, I guess. But it's something I put together logistically for my girls. And it's called a battle plan. Because they're going to spiritual battle. So there's a few stages that we walk through when it comes, and this can be identified, very fun, for more than just pornography. This can be identified for any issue, which is awesome. So the first thing that we do together is we identify triggers. When and what is going on that makes you want to watch porn? What's going on? Let's be aware of ourselves, our brains, and our bodies. For me, it was when I was feeling sad. It was when I was feeling lonely. It was when I was feeling stressed. So I identified when I'm feeling those three things, this is when I feel most inclined to give in to watching porn. So I've identified when I am when I'm feeling these three things, I need to be aware and on guard. Next is environment. Where am I when this is going on? Am I in my room by myself? Where's my phone? How am I getting access to these things? Is it an iPad? Is it my cell phone? Is it my computer? Is it something else? Like, how am I getting access to this medium that I am using to watch porn? So we've done triggers. We've done environment. The next we do is, I think lies. What lies am I believing? So for me, it was I'm unwanted. Like this is the thing. This is the only thing that is going to get me close to love. So I am unwanted and I am dirty. So those are the lies that I was believing. So I've identified these are lies. And because we're Christian, and this is a Christian, I'm a youth leader, the next thing we do is what does God say against those lies? What is the truth that we're going to choose to believe and speak over our lives instead of the lies that we were believing? And so we go to Scripture. We're like, okay, so I want you to try to find in Scripture where God says you're dirty. I want you to try and find in Scripture where God says you aren't wanted. I'm like, oh, it's a trick question because that doesn't exist in Scripture. God doesn't call his children dirty or ugly or unwanted. He calls them loved. He calls them by his name. He calls them chosen, like a chosen priesthood, a chosen people, royal priesthood set on a hill for the glory of God. He calls them oaks of righteousness, right? So he does not say or agree with these lies. So if we are Christians and we are choosing to walk with Christ, we are choosing to believe the word of God, and we are choosing to believe what God says about us, and understanding that if we are choosing to believe the lies that we are thinking, we are putting our own pride above the word of God. Right? So triggers, environment, lies, God's truth, and then the last step is what am I going to do differently? When I'm feeling triggered and I'm in this environment, what is the action that I'm going to do that is different than watching porn? So for me, for a while, it was, okay, so it's the trigger is when I'm sad, when I'm lonely, or when I'm overwhelmed. The environment is in my room at nighttime. The medium is my phone or my computer. So what did I do? I bought an alarm clock, and I charged my computer and my phone in the living room away from my room when I was feeling these ways, especially at the beginning, the whole time at the beginning. And then as I started having more victories and setbacks, I got more comfortable with having my phone. I also downloaded a software on my phone that sent to my accountability partner. What was it called? I think it was there's a church. No, it wasn't Covenant Eyes. It was it's this church that exists for industry workers. It's like it was created by people who used to work in porn, and they no longer do, and they'll go to porn conventions and set up a booth. I think it's XXX Church is I think what it's called, but I'm not positive. My husband is fact-checking me. He'll tell us right now. But they have a program. Yeah, xxxchurch.com. And I think they had a program, and I bought it, and it basically replaces the search engine that you use. So if you have an iPhone, instead of using Safari, you would use their search engine. and you would set up how intense the filter is going to be. So if you got close to something, it would ping and send an email and a notification to your partner who you have like listed. And that way I could like look at Megan and she could be like, you had a few pings this week. Yeah, so it was like I was really intense with it at the beginning because I needed to be. So in my battle plan, I'm feeling this way. I'm here. This is the medium that I normally do it in. So the actions that I'm going to take instead are I'm going to charge my phone and my computer in the living room where my parents can see. I'm not going to have it in my room. I'm not even going to tempt myself with it. And I'm going to choose to be with people. So instead of like going and locking my door if people are awake, and I'm trying to do this when people are awake, I'm going to make myself go sit in the living room with my parents instead of being by myself. Because being by myself encourages me to watch porn instead. So I walk through that battle plan with my students, and we like sit down together. It's a really lot, like I'm like, carve out 3 hours, dude. Like, sister, we're going to be here for a while. And I was like, this is only going to work if you are honest and vulnerable in this situation. This is not going to work if you are lying. This is not going to work if you are not being intentional and really introspective about what's happening. You've got to really be honest. And if you're not going to be honest, it's not going to work. So let's be honest and let's actually talk. So we go through the thing, and then the kids, one of the girls that works with me now was one of the kids that I did that with. And she has victory over this in her life, and it's awesome. So it works.
Wow. I don't even know where to start. So there's so many similarities here. Some of the tools are tailored to this issue, so I get that. But process, I like the process. I see some similarities in other speakers that we've had, and some of just the way that we do stuff in recovery. But two things that really stuck out to me, your opening, somebody says they've got an issue. Great. Your very first opening is like, how serious are you? How bad do you want it? And that just jumped out at me in volumes. We use the acronym HOW. Are you willing to be honest, open, and willing? And if they're not, and you said it, well, come back when you're ready. You're wasting my time. I'm not wasting yours. Okay. So when it becomes absolutely objectionable to you, or it's burying you so bad that you can't breathe, I'll be here. But until then, hasta la cia, baby. Right? I mean, it's just the way it is. Tough love. And you answered the question before I could even ask it about opposite sex. Because we are adamant in all aspects of recovery, no matter what the topic is, same sex is key. So I that was great. And obviously on this topic, it would so be inappropriate, to try to get help from the opposite sex. It just doesn't even resonate with me. And I love the self-determination that you shared. And the final thing that stands out to me, we're going to be doing, I just need to say this, we always have show notes. So you gave this software link, xxchurch.com. What a great name. I know. Are you sure? We're going to give them a shameless plug, xxchurch.com, and we'll also put it in the show notes. So the last thing that comes to my mind before we come to closure, there's this saying that God never wastes a hurt. So all the junk that you had to go through, I mean, I'm sure you've thought about this, or it has been said to you before, so maybe I just want to hear myself say it. It sets you up because you have a desire for the youth, and you also have this past with shame, but because you have victory in it, you've already demonstrated how you've been able to help. So when you told me that you had all these, I just can't even see teenagers being in this. See, that's just so foreign to me. And I was oblivious to it as a youth myself because I didn't identify with it and I didn't know anybody that did. So I wonder how many people I knew now that had a secret relationship with pornography. But they're never going to talk to me about it because I've never alluded to it ever. And if somebody did as maybe a off-color joke or a dirty joke, I'd participate in those because I like jokes. And even though my mom would slap me if she heard some of the ones that I've heard and repeated, but I never identified with pornography itself. So obviously God has put you where you're at for a reason and allowed you to go through this topic so you could be there for these kids. It's beautiful. I mean, can't argue that. So God never wastes a hurt. Now, like I said, we're going to have show notes, but also I'm sure, because I don't identify with it, and we put resources up, and this xchurch.com will be one of them also in the show notes. There is invariably, possibly, somebody out there that's going to go, oh, I need help. I'm listening to this for the first time quietly. Nobody knows I'm hearing this. I've got such a huge problem, and they would probably love to talk to you, but I am the gatekeeper. We have folks that write in the show message, and I'm going to talk about that in a sec. If that happens, I'll vet them the best that I can, but you still have grifters out there, and you're obviously pretty wise, so you can tell when you've got a grifter and you can block that person. But if I get somebody and I've vetted them the best that I can, and they say only a female, I would never forward a male. I'd say, well, you heard on the show that you need to find a male. I would begin with xxx.com and maybe or church.com. xxx.com probably is a bad site.
We probably wouldn't do that one at all.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
I'd stay away from that one.
Yeah, stay away from that. I do know that there used to be like whitehouse.gov. I might be saying it wrong, but there was a site that's gone now, but it led you to believe that it was a government site, but it was a porno site. And I just remember this in conversation somewhere. I've never actually gone there because I don't care. So anyway, are you okay with me receiving messages, vetting them, and forwarding them to you? Okay, so folks, if you're hearing this and that matters to you and you want to reach out to Kristi and just do online chat or whatever your relationship goes, that's between you guys. You can hit us up at several different ways. There's a phone number on the site. You can leave a voicemail for us. It's not monitored, so nobody answers it, but it's a voicemail. Or you can use the message board on shoutoutfromthepit.com, or you can actually email us, and the link is also on shoutoutfromthepit.com. So there's a lot of ways you can reach us, so feel free to do that as always. Okay, so finally, I'm just asking, sitting audience, do you have anything you want to add? Okay, passing the mic back to Mark.
Out of curiosity, have you heard of Gabor Mate? You would really like his material. He's a physician. And he's an expert in early childhood development and addiction. And so he has a couple of quotes that I always think about when I'm hearing conversations like this. And one of them is, don't ask about why the addiction, ask about why the pain. And so what he talks a lot about is any type of vice that someone might be dealing with, it's an interconnected system. And it's a typical response to trauma. And so instead of people trying to figure out, okay, why do I have this shameful addiction, it's going like, what shames have been in your life that this helps soothe. And so it really shifts the conversation. He calls it compassionate inquiry. And I really appreciate that type of model where instead of trying to figure out, okay, what's wrong with the person, it's going, well, this at some point in your life might have been helpful. So it's a lot more of a curiosity trail of, let's actually ask ourselves, if we remove this addiction, what are we going to find underneath it? Because it's self-prescriptional. So regardless of what the person might be dealing with, there could be pain, there could be loneliness, like Kristi was given the examples of, doing it in the dark. And so I think it's a lot of things where we talk about is, what do we need when we're alone that this was giving us instead?
Yeah, thanks. That's very good insight. I'm going to ask you, if you guys choose to. It would help me out a lot. I took a lot of stuff here in the show notes, but what would really help me is if two things. If you would write out that process that what you called a battle plan, I'm obviously very familiar with that terminology as a veteran. But if you could write out that battle plan and as if somebody's reading it, really trying to grasp that process, okay? And then, Mark, if you could synopsize what you just said and maybe even provide the link, and if you guys could email that to me, that'd be awesome. And maybe if we could do a subsequent show someday, I'd really like to know Kristi, was your attraction to Mark based on his perfect hair? No.
I have such a funny story just to mention that. I met Mark on a winter conference, and we sat next to each other on the way home, and we met each other the day that it ended. We met on the 31st because it was over New Year's Eve. And it was 18 hours from where we lived in Texas to Kansas City. So we were driving back, and we got out of the car, and this was teenage naivety. Naivete. We are very different people. We've been in a relationship for almost 12 years this upcoming year. But when we were younger, we were like, oh my gosh, you want to be a counselor? I want to be a counselor. And then the Lord made me a youth pastor instead. But I got out of the van, looked my parents in the eyes. I don't know if I've ever told you this. And I said, I found the man I'm going to marry, because I had just spent time with Mark. And my dad goes, I hope it's not that guy with the hair over there. Because he had some down the middle 90s vibe going. And I was like, it is.
That's
it was so funny.
Dude, you do have perfect hair. And I'm going to go there, but for full disclosure, Mark is my son. And I am just amazed. I've obviously known you your whole life. And Kristi, I've known you guys been married for going on 8 years, and in May it'll be 8 years, right? And I'm just always impressed with the things you guys say about each other, and I'm getting to know you over the time. But this particular trip, coming out here, and then you sharing that stuff with. First of all, I'm blessed that you shared that with your father-in-law, and the other thing is that you are just such a blessed person. I've always loved you. I just think you guys get along so great; it cracks me up. But to see what I saw while I was here with you and your youth, I just wow, you guys are just a perfect fit. It's insane. I love to see that, man. Just amazing. Okay, so any other things you want to add, and this is kind of how we end. We always want to give hope to the hurting. So what's on your mind right there when you hear that, knowing that there are people out there that are just so distressed with such darkness and pain? What do you say to them?
Number one, I love you, Bob. And thank you for having me. I would say if you are stuck in this watching porn, and you want so desperately to get out of it because you're just seeing the destructive nature that it can have on you, understand that you are not alone, and you are loved and you are wanted. And this doesn't make you dirty. It doesn't make you undesirable. It doesn't make you any less worthy of love in your life. There are resources available, and you are worth using them. You are worth it. You are worth the hard work that it'll take to get through this. And unfortunately, you can't go around it. You've got to go through it, but you can do it. You can get through this. There are people who want to help you. You just got to open your eyes, lift your face up to actually see the hands that are reached out to you, and just grab hold of it. Understand that people who love you and want to be there for you are not going to judge you for messing up. They are just going to embrace you and encourage you. So understand that it's going to be okay, and that you're loved and wanted and pursued, and you're worth it.
Amen. Wow, that was just a great show. Man, you guys really blessed me. So we're wrapping up here, folks. Again, this is the Old Rucker, a.k.a. Bob. And as always, if nobody's told you they love you today, man, I love you. So I just pray that things go great for you for the rest of your day. And as always, have an outstanding American day. This is the Old Rucker with Shout Out from the Pit. See ya.